Jin Kazama, the Child of Destiny. Being a character who's one of the big three main characters in the story, he can either go from the main character or just... So in this video, I'll be ranking Jin's role in the story in every Coma and Tekken game, ranking him from useless to King of the Iron Fist. In his first game, Jin starts off as the new main character of the series. When Jin was 15 years old, he and his mother, Jin Kazama, would be attacked by the god of fighting, Ogre. Jin tried to defend his mother, but he was knocked unconscious, leading to Jin having to fight Ogre all by herself. When Jin woke up, he saw everything around him burnt to the ground, and he couldn't find his mother, which made him think she was killed by Ogre. But before Ogre attacked, Jin said to Jin that if anything bad were to happen to her, he would find and stay with his grandfather Heihachi. Once Jin finds Heihachi, he takes Jin under his wing and trains him in the Mishima Ryu fighting style. He even had Jin attend the Mishima Polytechnical School, where he meets Ling Xiaoyu. He also meets Horang for the first time during a street fight, which ends in a draw, leading them to have an ongoing rivalry throughout the rest of the series. Once his 4 years of training were over, Heihachi then announces the third King of Iron Fist tournament. Jin enters the tournament to avenge the death of his mother. Jin makes it far enough into the tournament to get into the finals, but instead of Jin being the one to fight Ogre, it's Paul Phoenix who somehow manages to pull through and defeat Ogre. With Paul winning, that would have made him the winner of the tournament, if he didn't immediately leave after beating Ogre, all because he thought he won. Because not long after that, Ogre transforms into a second form, True Ogre, and conveniently, Jin was there to see the monster transform. Motivated by his mother's loss, Jin manages to successfully defeat Ogre, making him the official winner of the third tournament. But before he could process his victory, Jin gets shot down by the Tekken Force, and Heihachi walks up to deliver the headshot. Thinking that Jin was dead, Heihachi walks away to let his soldiers take care of things. But when one of the soldiers go flying, Heihachi then turns around, only to see that Jin has awakened the devil gene within him. He then grabs Heihachi, slams him through the window, spreads his wings, slam dunks Heihachi to the ground, and flies away, ending the story of Tekken 3. So far, it's a great first start for Jin. Being the new main character of the series, training under Heihachi for 4 years, meeting Xiaoyu and Horang for the first time, winning the third tournament, avenging his mother's death, surviving Heihachi's attack, and managing to awaken the devil gene. Jin certainly makes his presence known with a great first impression, so I'd say this is a King of Iron Fist here. After the events of the third tournament, Jin landed in Brisbane of Australia. Ever since he was betrayed by Heihachi, Jin despised everything that was related to the Mishima family. To further distance himself from his lineage, he then transitioned into training in the art of Kyokushin Karate. After 2 years of training, Jin successfully masters the Kyokushin Karate fighting style and abandons the Mishima Ryu fighting style. For now anyway. After the King of Iron Fist 4 was announced, Jin did not hesitate to enter the tournament, with his goal to not only defeat Heihachi, but his father Kazuya as well. Later on in the tournament, Jin was set to fight Kazuya, but he couldn't make it to the match because he was suddenly ambushed by the Tekken Force. Although he did manage to take down a good number of them, he was ultimately neutralized and taken away. The next time we see Jin is when Kazuya and Heihachi enter the Temple of Honmaru. Jin then gets awoken by Kazuya, which then leads into their first fight in the series. Jin then beats Kazuya, knocking him unconscious. Heihachi then steps in to fight Jin, only to get whipped as well. But as soon as Jin could land the finishing blow to Heihachi, Jin all of a sudden steps in like After that, Jin lets Heihachi go and thanks his mother, then proceeds to fly away from the temple, leaving Kazuya and Heihachi behind. And that's it for Jin's story in Tekken 4. Tournament wise, he does well up until he gets captured by the Tekken Force, but that's about it. Character wise, this is where we see Jin turn into the character that we know today. A character whose main goal is to end the Mishima bloodline. A character who hated his family so much he tried to distance himself from them, even changing his fighting style into Kyokushin Karate. Jin's role in the story is very important, but kinda gets overshadowed by Kazuya's grand return in this game, with him getting the much bigger spotlight. Overall, I'ma say he's active. So while Jin was flying away from Honmaru, the temple explodes due to the Jack 4's ambush on Kazuya and Heihachi. But unknown to everyone, Jinpachi Mishima, who was imprisoned under the temple, was freed because of the explosion. At the same time of his awakening, Jin loses control of the devil gene and destroys a forest. Jin then wakes up to the destroyed forest, realizing he was the one who caused it. When he returned to Yakushima, Jin was constantly being haunted by nightmares. The influence of the Devil Gene had been getting stronger over time. Jin then realizes that if this keeps on going, he doesn't know how long he'll hang on for. Jin enters the 5th tournament to find a way to end the evil. While in the tournament, Jin comes face to face with Hwoarang and loses the fight. Shortly after Hwoarang wins, the Devil Gene takes over, transforming Jin into Devil Jin and brutally defeats Hwoarang in the process. Jin continued on into the tournament and managed to make it into the final round. This is where Jin meets his great-grandfather, Jinpachi Mishima. Now the reason why Jinpachi set this entire tournament up to begin with was so that he could find someone that could kill him before the evil entity that possessed him took full control. Jin and Jinpachi then start fighting it out, with Jin coming out on top and killing Jinpachi, giving him the peace that he wanted. After the tournament ended, Jin then takes his place as the new ruler of the Mishima Zaibatsu. So once again, Jin is the protagonist of this game's story, and he does his role well. From beating Hwoarang, even though it was in an unfair manner, defeating Jinpachi, and taking over the Mishima Zaibatsu. As much as I want to give Jin a King of Iron Fist tier, he doesn't do an entire lot compared to his previous entries, but he does get bonus points for managing to take over the Zaibatsu. Overall, I'ma say he's active in Tekken 5. So now that Jin, who is known to be the true hero of the story, has the power of the Mishima Zaibatsu in his hands. Being the good-hearted character that he has been portrayed to be, surely he's going to use the Zaibatsu for a good cause, right? Right? Clearly that doesn't end up being the case, because sometime after his takeover of the Mishima Zaibatsu, Jin wages war against the entire world. To everyone, this just looks like he just started a war for no reason, but we'll get to that explanation soon. While in this position, Jin does whatever he can to give the Zaibatsu more power, by rendering most countries' militaries useless and taking over energy resources like oil fields and space colonies. G Corporation, which is led by Kazuya, decides to combat the forces of the Zaibatsu, making G Corporation look like the good guys in this war. In this story, this is where we get introduced to two new characters, Lars Alexanderson and Alessa Bosconovich. Lars was the former leader of the Tekken Force, but when he saw what was going on in the war, he then decided to form his own resistance group called Yggdrasil, taking half of the Tekken Force soldiers as well. Inside a Mishima Zaibatsu laboratory, Lars comes across Alessa, who is an android created by her father, Dr. Bosconovich. They both team up together in order to take down Jin and stop the war. They manage to find Jin inside his throne room. Lars and Jin then face off against each other, but before the match could continue, Jin decides to leave. But before he takes his leave, Jin tells Alessa to disable her safety mode and reboot, which causes Alessa to turn against Lars and joins Jin. It turns out that Alessa was built to serve Jin, meaning she has to obey his every command. Jin then orders Alessa to take out Lars, but she fails, retreating in the process. Raven then tells Lars that Jin is heading for the desert, and Lars decides to tag along because he has some unfinished business with Jin. When Lars arrives to the desert and takes care of some business inside the temple, he then comes face to face with Jin once again. Before the fight starts, Lars proceeds to do this.
Oh! What is that?
Huh?
Oh shit! What is that?
Anyways, Lars runs in, but gets stopped in his tracks by Alessa. They then fight again, with Lars winning the fight. Alessa then has a small moment with Lars before shutting down, and then Jin shows up to tell Lars how useless she is. That gets Lars mad and makes him more determined to take down Jin. In the end, Lars wins the fight. And after all of that, Jin finally explains the whole reason as to why he started this war in the first place. Jin then tells Lars that because he has the Devil Gene, he heard Azazel's voice in his head. Azazel tells Jin to create as much negative energy around the world as possible, because if he did that, he would be able to obtain his physical form. Jin then came to the realization that if he could produce enough negative energy across the world and give Azazel a physical form, he and Azazel would fight, which would end in both of them destroying each other. Jin hoped that by doing this, he would be free of the Devil Gene's curse and the world would be saved. Lars claims that he already defeated Azazel, but as we see seconds later, that doesn't end up being the case, because Azazel comes back shortly after. Jin then powers up and slowly walks towards Azazel. Azazel then fires off some lasers, but they have no effect. But then Jin rushes in, one-shots Azazel, and then they both fall down the hole. And then a giant explosion comes out. After the scenario campaign, we get a post-credit scene, where Raven and his men find an unconscious body in the sand, and it turns out to be Jin. As we can see on his arm, the tattoo is still there, meaning that the Devil Gene is still around. And that's it for Jin's story in Tekken 6. Right from the start, it's a big change for Jin's character, going from hero to villain by starting a war. And it's not just the fact that he started a war, it's also the way his character was portrayed in this game, acting more like a traditional evil Mishima, like Kazuya in Tekken 2, and him having the whole edgelord attitude that people associate him with. Oh, and let's talk about Jin's plan to cause chaos around the world to bring back Azazel in order to achieve his freedom and world peace, because if you saw my last video, I said this: the fact that you caused a global world war in order to summon an ancient demon to not only save the world but also rid yourself of the Devil Gene, a plan which ultimately amounted to nothing? Whack! Yeah, everything that Jin put together completely falls apart, mainly from what we see from Tekken 7 onwards. Jin wanted to die, but he's alive in the next game. The Devil Gene is still around, and through Safina's Tekken 7 DLC, Azazel's spirit lives in her. Meaning all of this was for absolutely nothing. So for all the reasons I stated, Tekken 6 Jin gets his own tier. We added him to the excellent tier. After getting found by Raven, Jin was taken into custody by the UN. While unconscious, Jin's devil powers awaken and destroys the helicopter. Jin then aimlessly walks around the desert until some soldiers show up to take him in. He fires off a laser to get him off. Jin then finds himself in a marketplace and he is once again found by the UN soldiers. Jin then tries to run away, but he's so weak he can't even defend himself. Lars then comes in to rescue Jin and escapes. The next time we see Jin, he is asleep inside a medical facility by Violet Systems. Nina and the Tekken Force arrive to capture Jin, but was saved thanks to Lars, Alyssa and Lee. We then find out that Lars only saved Jin because he believes that Jin would be the key to end the war for good. After that, Jin would remain absent throughout the Tekken 7 story. It's only up until the very end of the game where we see Jin is fully awake with a new goal to kill Kazuya Mishima. Let's get straight into the point. Jin barely does anything in this story. He's just asleep for most of the game and was so weak he couldn't even defend himself. He's worthless. Forget about him. Thankfully in this game, Jin gets to become the main character again, with Kazuya being the main villain and Heihachi being out of the picture. For now anyway. The story starts off in New York City, where Jin is following Kazuya, who is in a helicopter. So in order to catch up to him, Jin rides his motorcycle on the side of the building, jumps off the building, and throws the motorcycle at the helicopter. This scene is so ridiculous it's funny. So they get to fighting, Jin gets the upper hand for a little bit, but then Kazuya overpowers him. A week later, we see Jin resting in the Yggdrasil base, and Lars and Jin have a sparring match. Lars tells Jin to try and transform, but he can't. Jin then figures out that in order to awaken his Devil Gene, he has to be pushed to his limits. So he then goes up to Lee and Lars to say,
"Hey guys, I want to enter the tournament." "Are you sure?"
Yes.
So during the tournament, Jin runs into Reina, who introduces herself. Later on, Jin and Reina are set to fight in the tournament. During the fight, Reina starts to hit some familiar moves.
Huh?
Reina then punches Jin, which causes Jin's Devil Gene to have a quick outburst. Reina gives up and Jin wins. But seconds after that, Hwoarang jumps in to fight. Jin slowly starts to get his power back and then does a 10-hit combo to finish the match. Jin wins the match, which gets him into the finals, and Hwoarang, being the bad sport that he is, attacks Jin after losing. After that, Jin runs into Reina again. Reina then asks Jin to help her take down Kazuya, but then Jin rightfully asks if that has anything to do with the fighting style she used. So we head to the Colosseum where the finals are taking place, and Jin is set to fight against Leroy Smith. Leroy thanks Jin for standing up to Kazuya in New York, and then they begin their fight. Jin manages to win the match, and Leroy gives him some advice.
If you know your enemy and yourself, you'll never be in danger. Looking back on the job of old men. Believe in yourself and look to the future.
It's nice. After that, Lars and Victor's forces come in to storm the stadium. Zafina gets slam dunked and takes Azazel's power. Kazuya then throws Zafina away like trash, but Jin catches her. Zafina tells Jin to return to the point of origin, the place where it all began, that place being Yakushima. She then tells Jin that he will be a shining star of hope for the people, before dying. After Kazuya takes Azazel's power, everyone gives Jin some "you got this" type motivation speech before heading off to Yakushima, with Lily, Xiaoyu, Panda, and Asuka for some reason. While on the private jet, Lily shares the Kazama family tree with everyone and tells them about what happened in Yakushima. Later on, they arrive in Yakushima and Xiaoyu accompanies Jin on his way. Jin and Xiaoyu then arrive to the place where he and his mother used to do sparring sessions. Xiaoyu asks Jin to have a sparring match with her because she believes that an exchange of blows can be revealing, which then leads to Xiaoyu's love confession.
でも、ジンは私の好きなジンのままだった。
But there's no time for Jin to process that confession, cause suddenly he starts hearing a lullaby that his mom used to sing inside his head, which leads him to go inside the tree and slowly falls into a coma. Inside Jin's dream, we see him in the descent into subconscious stage, where he sees an illusion of his mother and then sees his much drippier counterpart, Devil Jin. Jin then proceeds to go through 3 stages of trying to make peace with himself. After going through all 3 stages, Jin vows to protect those who are important to him, and in order for him to do that, he needs to accept his evil half in order to give him the strength to take down Kazuya. Once Jin does that, he gains black and white wings to show that he and Devil Jin are one together. After that, Jin saves Lars and goes straight into fighting Kazuya. The fight goes on and Kazuya decides it's time to destroy the entire island, summoning an entire death ball to do so. Jin tries to push it back, but he's clearly getting overwhelmed. But by the power of plot armor, Jin gets a vision from his mother, and John basically says,
"Hi son, it's been a while. Here's a power boost that'll not only destroy the Devil Gene, but it'll also save yourself and Kazuya. Now get out there."
So the battle between Angel Jin and True Devil Kazuya begins. We got JoJo references, aura offs, and over-the-top rage arts that last 15 seconds. Jin and Kazuya then do a clash so powerful it causes both of them to lose their forms. The meteor falls down from space and the true final battle begins. Jin goes all out in this fight by going from Kyokushin karate back into the Mishima Ryu fighting style into the Kazama style martial arts. Eventually, Jin gets the ultimate victory against Kazuya. With the battle now over, Jin heads back and seemingly gets his happy ending with Xiaoyu. And that's it for Jin's role in Tekken 8. Already it's a great improvement from his previous story role in Tekken 7, now that he's back as the protagonist in this game. From standing up to Kazuya in New York, beating Reina, Horang and Leroy in the tournament, making amends with Devil Jin, and managing to defeat Kazuya. Honestly, Jin does his part well in the story as the returning protagonist of the series, making this an easy King of Iron Fist tier. Thank you guys for watching the 3rd episode in the How Useless Are the Tekken Characters series. The last 2 videos that I've posted have received a great amount of support these past few weeks, because right now, we are currently at 610 subscribers, and I thank you guys for that. It shows me that you guys enjoy these kind of videos and want more of it. With that said, thank you so much for watching, and I'ma see you later.